All right, welcome back, and I've got as close as we here in the States, really. All right, it's a little hyperbolic. You could probably get cheaper, but as close-ish as we here in the States can get to a hyper-budget deck. I was inspired by Card Market Magic's video with their $2 decks, and all four of them had $2 decks, like a whole pot of commander decks for $8. The dream. But this one here is $11.25 without the lands. The only reason it's so crazy expensive with the basic lands in here is the basics I have are just like pretty full art ones. I don't know. But it's also like 38 of them. There's 15. So get basics for free for somebody if you got them. Or if you've got your own, like, hopefully you're not spending a whole lot of money buying basics. But without those, the spells of the deck, $11.25, and that's so good for a budget deck. And I think this deck slaps. And there's so many ways to put money in and absolutely break this open. But our focus here is Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma, one of my favorite characters from Fallout New Vegas. Absolutely batshit insane character. And a recruitable companion, and that's my favorite. She's probably my favorite companion from New Vegas. But she is 3 colorless and a green for a mutant warrior. She's a 0/0. We'll get there. She has vigilance, which means she doesn't tap when you swing her. Swing to attack. Sorry, I don't know what my audience quite is yet, so I'm trying to figure out, make sure that I'm not talking over anybody who doesn't know what's going on. So she enters with 2+1/+1 counters. So that makes sure she doesn't die. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on Lily Bowen. If her power is 16 or less. Otherwise, you remove all but one +1/+1 counter from her, and then you gain 1 life for each counter removed this way. It's an underrated commander, which means it's very cheap. And it is the beatdown and also the ability to get you back in the game by getting you a bunch of life. So seems like a really good, fun option for a budget commander that can hopefully maybe stick with these. Probably not a tier 4 table, like a bracket 4 table or anything crazy, but other bracket 2s for sure, and maybe even bracket 3s, maybe. Probably not, but maybe. So, because one of our things is +1/+1 counters, so let's talk about the things that make counters matter. So we've got Battlefront Krushak, 4 colorless and a green for a 3/4. It can't be blocked by more than one creature, and creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter on it can't be blocked by more than one creature. This is, as you can guess, this is a beatdown deck. This is just green, we're going big, tall, and we're beating face. We're trying to find trample, we're trying to find evasion of any kind, and just getting over. We've got Cathedral Acolyte, colorless and green, for a 1/2. Each creature you control with a counter on it, ward 1. And you can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that entered the battlefield this turn. That way, if you've got no other way to make sure to ensure something enters and keep your board protected, a little bit. We've got 3 colors and a green for a 4/3 for the Crown Ceratok. It has trample. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. This is going to help us get over our opponent's board, especially combined with our cards that make us unable to be blocked by multiple creatures. And we have several of these creatures that will let us gain trample to knock over our opponents. And last, the last different kind of thing we need or have that has counters matters. I know how to speak. Rishkar, Pima Renegade, 2 colors and a green for a 2/2. When he enters the battlefield, you get a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and each creature you control with a counter on it taps for green. So he's just counters matter ramp, and we have counters matter run over, basically. There are so many different ways to put counters on things in this deck. I'm not going to tackle every single one of them because they just kind of incidentally happen and are stable to most of the things we have and are doing. But important ones to go with our invasion is we have a couple ways to give some surprise death touch to any of our big creatures with Gift of the Viper, which is a green instant. Put a +1/+1 counter and a reach counter and a death touch counter on target creature, and you untap it. In case you don't know, I think I said this in a different video as well, but death touch and trample are an incredible combo together because they will trample says that any excess damage beyond lethal damage assigned to a creature spills over and hits the opponent directly. Death touch says lethal damage for any creature is 1. So it's just whatever your creature's power is, subtract 1, the rest of it goes face. No matter what the other creature's toughness is, it does not matter. So it's a really great combo to have. And then we also have Horrid Vigor, which is the temporary one, and it just gives a creature death touch indestructible until end of turn, which is also a way to save it. So you can use that both offensively and defensively. One of the ways to get blowouts in this deck, both to like take out an opponent and to maybe come back. We have a few ways to, on a budget, double the counters on something. We have Biogenic Upgrade, which is 4 colors and 2 green for a sorcery. It puts 3 +1/+1 counters on 1, 2, or 3 target creatures, and then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each of those selected creatures. Next is, these are going to be very straightforward, so there's not going to be a whole lot of talk, just going to be like how great they are. Like, it's just, you can surprise make your Lily big, or in the case of the sorcery, and this sorcery, do it, and then you swing in. Fangs of Colonia, colorless and green, to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature. Then a +1/+1 counter put on it this way. And then it has the old Is It Overload mechanic, which replaces the instance of target to each. So you just put a counter on all your dudes, make them all huge. Ferrophore Young You, 6 colorless and a green for a 4/7. When he enters, you get a number of 1/1 green sapling creature tokens equal to the number of counters among creatures target player controls. Unsurprisingly, target player will be you most of the time. And if it's not you, you have other problems. So, and then this is just repeatable tap, double the number of each kind of counter on target creature. So this can very much surprise, like on our opponent's end step before our turn, because Lily's ability triggers on our upkeep. You can tap Young You anytime Lily's counter count is 8 or higher, assuming that she has nothing buffing her toughness. Then you can just double those, and then you'll be able to gain some life on your upkeep. We've got Invigorating Surge, 2 colors and a green. Slap a counter on a creature you control, double the number of counters on that creature. This one's also instant speed. Lets us have that tech of being able to do it on end steps or during combat if we need to do a combat trick. Ordinary Tumblewag, 2 colors and a green for a 2/2. And at the beginning of each of your turn, beginning of combat on your turn, I reading the card explains the card, and I know how to read. I promise. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever Ornery Tumblewag attacks while saddled, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature, saddle 2. Also important notice, Lily comes in with 2 counters. So if we were to be able to give Lily haste, we would still be able to or give the Brushwag haste. We'd be able to like saddle with Lily and start that clock with this as well. Okay, let's talk about some of the ways that we can protect Lily. We've got a couple of the Umbras, Boar and Spider. Boar is 2 colors and a green, gives the creature +3/+3, and Totem Armor. Spider Armor, Umbra is 1 green, and the creature gets +1/+1, Reach, and Totem Armor. And Totem Armor, very helpfully, is anytime the creature would be destroyed next, you instead remove all instances, all damage from it, and then you destroy the aura that has Totem Armor on it instead. So you have to use 2 pieces of spot removal, or you have to like reduce Lily's toughness to below 0, so where like state-based abilities just kill her anyway. We have Fog effects in Fog, which is colorless and instant speed, prevent all combat damage that we dealt this turn. And then we also have our counter-specific Fog, which is Hinder Vines, 2 colors and a green, instant, prevents all combat damage that we dealt this turn by creatures with no +1/+1 counters on them. Now, that is not as good as you want it to be, because as much as +1/+1 counters are our thing, it's a lot of people's thing. So this isn't going to be the blowout you want to be more than you... This is not going to be the blowout as much as you want it to be, but it will be a blowout sometimes, and it'll be fun. I had some fun life gain tech I wanted to throw in here for Lily. Fortifying Trap, which is green instant, you gain 2 life, and then target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. And it's important to note that our ability triggers on upkeep, so that will happen before our combat step. So we'll already gain, in the base, when you remove 15 counters, we'll gain 15 life. So 1 mana, we can just do 15/15. And we have so many ways for creatures to have trample, so we'll probably bust through something. And then I also saw this in her lists, and I was just like, this is such a cool card. I've never seen Angel Entity before. I don't know anyone who's talked about it. But it's whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on Angel Entity. It's just green Ajani's Pridemate, but it's green Ajani's Pridemate, so let's run it. And it starts as a 4/4 for 5, which is nice. Bit of evasion built into our land base. We have Rogue's Passage, which does add for colorless, which doesn't help us from our mono green deck, but pay for and tap it, and a target creature can't be blocked this turn. This is the ADHD. I'm riddled with it. So sorry, I'm working on meds. Excalibur 2 is another life gain payoff, especially for cheap, for the amount of life we're going to be gaining in chunks here. We have, whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on Excalibur 2, and then the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. So you don't necessarily want to put this on Lily. You want something like the Umbras to help keep Lily alive and give her a slight toughness boost so that you can gain the counters and double those and use those effects and gain lots of life to weaponize Excalibur 2 on other creatures. Bit of life gain tech I have in here is Lifestream's Blessing. 4 colorless and 2 green for instant to draw X cards, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. And it's as you cast this spell. So even if this gets countered, or someone goes point and click deletes one of your creature that you targeted with this to count for the amount of draw you're going to get, it don't matter. It's as you cast it, it's already been determined, they can't stop it. But if you foretell it first, you also gain twice X life, which can roll into, because it's 6 mana, sure, but we're in green, so we have lots of it. But that can also roll back into the Fortifying Draft and be a huge +X for that card. We did mention a bit of token gen in Fair Young Yu, but we also have a bit of token gen in Iridescent Hornbeetle, which is 4 colorless and a green for a 3/4 insect. And at the beginning of your end step, you get a 1/1 green insect creature token for each +1/+1 counter you put on creatures under your control this turn. And we have so many ways to double counters, so that's lots of fun. Our removal package is largely fight-based. We have Canker Bloom as artifact and enchantment removal, but it's also a creature that we can grow and smash face with. Chocobo Kick is probably one of the better fight spells that you could have since it was printed in green. It's colorless and green for a sorcery. For a kicker of a return a land you control to your hand, and target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a creature an opponent controls, but if it was kicked, you double the damage. Froghemoth, another great spell. One of my favorite creatures in D&D, and just I love it as a creature as well in Magic. 3 colorless and 2 green for a 4/4 trample haste. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you may exile up to that many cards from their graveyard. So it's graveyard hate, which is great. It gets +1/+1 counters for each creature card exiled this way, and then you gain life for non-creatures. Mutant's Prey is great little attack for our +1/+1 counters. It's target creature you control with a +1/+1 counter fights at a creature an opponent controls. But 1 green instant speed fight is pretty useful. That'll come in handy. We're gonna love that. Windswift Slice is also really good tech for this. 2 colors and a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. And then you get a number of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt this way. So this also works with the couple ways we have of applying Death Touch. So if you get one of those, you can score a bunch of bodies to build up. Titanic Brawl is another one of our great cheap instant speed fight spells. Colorless and a green for an instant, but it costs colorless less if it targets a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, which it probably will. And then you just fight a creature you don't control, but it's for 1 green at instant speed, which is awesome. Great blow-up potential. You can even snipe a creature on an end step before your turn even happens, and it'll clear some combat damage to maybe knock a player out for you. A bit of recursion we have in this deck around the theme is we have Evolution Witness, which is I love this card. I couldn't believe this existed when they printed it. But 2 colorless and a green for a 2/1. It has colorless and green adapt 2, which is if it has no +1/+1 counters on it, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. We're not going to have to worry about that most of the time. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Evolution Witness, you can return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. It's going to be really helpful. That's going to help us get a lot of stuff back and make sure that we're hard to deal with. We also have Sprout Back Trudge, which is 7 colorless and 2 green for a 9/7. But it also costs X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. Another one of those weird life payoffs. It has Trample, and at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may cast Sprout Back Trudge from your graveyard. So it is a big body that will hopefully stay in the battlefield and keep coming back to give our opponents hell. Ramp I want to highlight that's a little bit more special to this deck is Bighorn Rancher. 4 colors and a green for a 2/5. Has vigilance, and you can add an amount of green equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, and then you could sacrifice them to gain life equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. So it does a little bit of both with what our deck's trying to do. Now, in putting this deck together, I did happen upon a set of 4 cards that just personally crack me up. With being with Lily Bowen and the fact that she's a grandma. So we have Grandma's van. Everyone knows that their grandma has a van. Mine did, which is hilarious. This is 100% a stereotype for me as well. My grandma, I have many, many memories of going on vacations when I was younger and traveling in my grandma's van. It's 3 colorless. It's the turtle van. It's 3 colorless for a vehicle for a 4/4. It has crew of 1, which means we'll just be able to crew it no matter what. And whenever this vehicle attacks, you can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that crewed it. And then if a mutant, ninja, or turtle is the one that crewed it, you double the counters on that creature. Lily Bowen, mutant. Love that. Lily Bowen is also stock in the pantry. It's a green enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on stocking the pantry. You can pay 2 colorless and remove a supply counter on stocking the pantry and draw a card. And that is instant speed. So you can do that whenever you want as you're plopping counters places. We got Grandma's Jewelry, which is the Ring of Colonia. 2 colorless and 1 to equip. The equipped creature gains trample. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you get a +1/+1 counter on the equipped creature if they're green. Perfect for Lily. She loves her new bling. And of course, as we all know, grandmas love to cook. Lily Bowen is a master chef, which is 2 colorless and a green for a legendary enchantment. It's a background. Lily cannot choose a background, or I would love to make this our background. Depending on your play group, you could rule 0 it. I don't know. That's up to y'all. Commander creatures you own have this creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So Lily would enter with 3. That's nice. And other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. Why wouldn't they just say, oh, wait a minute. I like reading this card for the first time, truly. So commanders enter with additional counter, and then... Oh, and then it makes other things enter. Okay, I'm smart. I know how to read. I'm literate. I got it. But the goal of the deck is you're just swinging big stompy to go from 40 to 0. You're shooting for commander damage, that 21 threshold. Dealt by Lily herself to a player. Those are our win conditions. That's our goal. And it's just pick a creature, make it huge. Doesn't have to be Lily. A lot of our synergy is with her, though, with the life gain. But make it big, beat face. And it's a nice, fun little deck for $11.25. And that'll be it. Be excellent to one another and have a good one.